the key objective is for us to move GenAI from a parlor trick to a cultural norm at the company. Email is a cultural norm, and we assert making GenAI needs to be in a cultural norm for everyone's career and the company advancement here. And today I want to talk about the basics and how to talk confidently about it, do some hands-on experience, and really leading towards you having a superpowers. We used to train, there's all these tools here. We've really learned to get this really, really simple, to make sure we answer everyone's questions and get you inspired to try it this week at work using the secure employee chatbot. As we talked earlier, this is not general training. This is training on your particular tool that your CIO or IT team has already approved for use with confidential information at your company here. Just keep going through some of the basics here and raise questions and as we go. How come that's not, here we go. I'll do the takeaways and we'll jump in. Power tools for knowledge work. If you came home and you hired someone to redo your kitchen and they're manually drilling, you're like, what are you doing? Why are you using a manual drill when electric drills are so much more powerful? The same analogy is over in knowledge work. Why are you analyzing all that data without first asking the robots? Why are you creating a job spec by manually going through it here? Why are you proofreading a 100-page PowerPoint document? Give that stuff to the robots. And importantly, it's the biggest career accelerant ever. Every minute you spend learning on this is going to help your hireability, your promotability, and your overall job satisfaction. You're getting a glass out of your shoes. You're becoming more productive here, and you're way ahead of 99% of the time here. We've seen now dozens of examples of people who are between jobs, and while they're between jobs, they hone up and improve their GenAI skills, and now they're a lot more differentiated than the people they're competing against, and they know more about GenAI from the hiring manager. So the sweet spot is knowing a little bit of GenAI and your industry or use case here. Just pick one or two tools and become everyone's overwhelmed. So just pick one and go with it. Copilot, go pick ChatGPT. We get many, many questions. Oh, what about this and this? Let's learn one first and go from basics to intermediary. That's what we were focused. And then lastly is really developing the right mindset. Don't think about this as a snowblower, something you go and use that you're always smart about it. This is a co-intelligence. It sits with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, knows more about you than 99% of the task out there here, and wants to help in the most patient, any way you want. So it's there for you all the time. So ask myself, have I used the robots? Ask your colleagues, have you used the robots? And we use robots in quotes here. I say use the robots, I mean ask ChatGPT or the LLM. Usually open up the questions. What do people think the most common questions are in GenAI? Mark, I know you've done some of this as well. Mark, you're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, I think that where the executives struggle is they can't understand how they would use it. Yeah. And that people further embedded in the organization, they can figure it out, and that they need some time to figure out. They need like an hour where no one speaks to them, where they can work with it. But they don't get it. Some of them I don't think get it yet.
You're saying the executives or regular non-executives?
Well, both. But I mean, I think the executives really struggle understanding it far more than your regular employee.
And we've had a handful of cases where we're doing one-on-one with executives or CEO on the side, and it's called something else. I mean, we really do need a non-threatening area to get comfortable quickly here. Yeah, go ahead, Rosemary.
Well, I just wanted to comment on your comment about, just pick one tool. I don't think you can do that. I'm not a tool junkie, but I just had this experience today where I was running ChatGPT against Gemini, and I'm supposed to be training in Gemini. But when I took the output and I compared the two, I asked Gemini to compare ChatGPT's version to its own version. It said hands down that the ChatGPT version was better, and it gave a whole lot of reasons why. So I think you have to be trading off against, a couple of tools as you're working through. Also, because they're changing all the time too.
Yep. Just to follow on to that, Rosemary. So specifically, what versions of the tools we're using as well. 'Cause as you know, there's now, this is the Pro, is this 3.5, etc.
So Paul, can I just share for 1 sec?
Sure, go ahead.
So this is how specific, let's see. This is how specific Gemini was in comparing my version with its version. You know, it says my version, which is ChatGPT, was more authentic. Its version was more persuasive. It had stronger impact. I mean, that's why you can't just have one tool because it's just not enough, right?
And Rosemary, I think you're ahead of 99.999% of the people that we are in one-on-one training. Yeah. Go ahead, Lucinda, and then we'll jump back.
Yeah, so you asked, what would we think
Yeah.
the people's questions are? And yeah, I'm actually running I call it lunch and share. And the idea is I want to have people learning out loud. That's very hard to do, but that's the goal anyway. And just share practices, just like we do here. I
Yeah.
want to make a little learning lab in my company. But one of the big questions, things is, of course, everybody's heard about the hallucinations and like, if it's not going to be 100% right, why should I spend any time on this? And they don't really understand that if you're 70% right on a like monumental on a thing that takes you 10 hours, but you now did it in 5 minutes, you're just so much more ahead of the game. Like the whole timing aspect of it is not very clear to people, as well as the iterative aspect. I mean, people do iterate with their Google searches, but they don't tend to in the beginning iterate with LLMs, which is odd.
Yeah. And what's the most common question, Lucinda? Are you started these luncheons or?
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 6 months.
Oh, and what's a
Um,
common question? Do people just have how are they how-tos or am
Yeah,
I
I mean, some of them
solution?
are like, how do I connect? How do I like build something or how do I summarize all the conversations I had with this one person in my Gmail?
Yeah,
That's easy, right? Look at Gemini, here's the star, ask your question. Another one was I'm doing research for sales prospects all the time. How do I do that? And I'm always putting in this, I'm always doing the same things and looking in Google over and over again. So, I'm building a gem with the head of sales, and then after he plays with it and internalize it, then we're going to build gems with all of his people. So, yeah, it's really. Yeah, like how do you use it? What's a specific, like really getting to a specific use case that they care about. And if they don't know, just like a lot of times I just ask people, what do you have, what's hot on your, to-do list right now? And it might be like, I have to create a new clause for this contract.
yeah,
Great, let's just do that together. Or what do you spend, what is like painful and meticulous in your job that you hate? All right, let's go do that. So, yeah, it's really trying to make it super relevant for something they actually care about that they do in their job.
that's great. Yeah, go ahead, Mike, and then we'll go Bob.
Yeah, so one of the other open questions I have for this group, because we are steps ahead perhaps of level zero, is how do you advise people when to stop? Like, do I stop when I get the answer I anticipate, or should I do it 3 or 5 times and then average and figure? These are the types of questions I get. I'm like, yeah, I don't have an answer to that. It's independent, but I'm curious what other people do in that situation of how do you advise people not only which engine to use or how many, but how often should I run that query until I agree with it, or some, you know,
Michael, what did they do in the pre-Gen AI world? What did they do when it was just Word and Google?
well, I mean, that's easy. Of course, they get it right. Oh, it misspelled, Penelope. Oh, okay, now that's right. I just move on.
I see. Yeah.
But of course, as we know with generative AI and different engines may give you a variance on a theme, and then it's contextual. Am I working with people in finance versus marketing or those executives? And they're like, there's not just really a binary answer to this question. So I don't know which engine to use and how often should I run it until I'm sure that I'm getting the right response. And that,
I would
Yeah.
compare it to a doctor's. So if you have a doctor that tells like the cough is just a flu, maybe that's enough information to go home. But if it's a cancer or something huge, so whether the value is huge or your certainty is at almost at zero, then you go for a second opinion. So here we are. That's the same thing. Like you got two doctors or seven doctors, and go for a second, maybe third opinion if it's too big.
And Alden
Yeah.
has a great question, which is, what am I missing? Like he'll take the thing and either re-input it or put it in another LLM and say, what's this missing? And that actually can be very helpful as a final question.
Richard, listener, thanks. We'll go Tim. Thanks for raising your hand, and then we'll go John and Bob. Go ahead, Tim.
So I have to say I'm dealing with a pretty large firm full of smart people, and the questions I get are, how do I use it? What is it? That, I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but not that much. And I think, again, I keep saying we radically overestimate how much people understand about even just where do I get at this stuff, like even using Copilot, which is built into everything and beams itself at you every 5 seconds, and people can't figure out just how to load it up and what kind of question you should ask it. Now, some people, when they get there, they will ask a question, and the questions then are usually, in my world, like summarize this document, do some analysis for me, the straightforward things you would ask. But I will tell you, I'll give you a simple story. I'm working with somebody who was an AI lead at their prior company and was hired to help us create a little agent to do some analysis across a large series of documents. And I said, we've got this deep researcher thing now, and that just happened. It's now part of Microsoft Copilot. At least they say it is. We don't know exactly what, because Microsoft's a little opaque about which models they use. But there is this thing called research now as part of Copilot. And I said, it's like O3 or deep research from Google. And this person said, what's that?
Yeah.
And this was literally a month, within the last month.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, the basic questions right now are, how do I tie my shoes and brush my teeth and just get started?
We're seeing the same thing, Tim, and that's what the rest of the presentation will be. Go ahead, Bob, and then we'll jump back in.
Yeah, I agree with Tim. See a lot of people just, what do I do with this? How do I use it? And it's really entry level stuff. But the one that I get hit on with executives is, how do I measure the ROI? And
when they say that, Bob, what do you say?
so I actually like a response by the CIO at Moderna, and I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head right now. He's like, it's the AI tool costs about the equivalent of one lunch. Why do you care? Why are you actually focused on that when you could actually get, just buy it for them and get any kind of use out of it? Your return is there. So it's a red herring to go after ROI on such a cheap tool. So
good. John Spielk, did you have your hand up? Do you have a contribution before we jump in? Or maybe he left. All right, let me jump in. So
I'm here, Paul. Yeah, sorry. No, I was just thinking back to what Lucinda said about what, it doesn't get everything 100% right, so why deal with it? To which I would say, isn't that the case with every person you hire in your life? Right. So we're not going to hire anybody anymore because they don't get everything 100% right. I mean, it's such a fundamental change to be in dialogue with a machine that knows more than any human being on the planet and gets it right most of the time. And I think one thing, I don't know, that we found helpful is to step back and say to the executives, can you imagine a future by 2030 in which this is not integrated on your phone and in your business, in your home, if you have children or grandchildren going to school? Can you imagine a future where this is not ubiquitous? Like 2030? If the answer to that's, I haven't had anyone say no, that, yeah, they can't imagine a future with none of this here. It just, it sets up the inevitability of the use of this. And so they have to figure out a way to make it work.
Great. Let's keep driving. So I'll go through the next section. Again, this is a 101. I know we're in the 901 in this class here, but really basic, making sure everyone understands the difference between personal and business versions of this. Many of these people, many of our colleagues don't know. They're familiar with ChatGPT maybe and personal, but those are the personal accounts. So Copilot, Copilot Pro, $20 a month, ChatGPT, free or $20 a month. And what we're using here in one of these is typically ChatGPT Teams or Enterprise, in some cases a Microsoft Copilot. And that's the secure employee chatbot. That's the one we're going to talk about today, where you can put the most confidential data in your company into this chatbot at work that we're going to show you with confidence. And that's what we want you to leave. We want you to leave here knowing the basics and be able to confidently put in the most confidential contract you have, confidently put in a download of all your top prospects and ask it to analyze it. So you can actually start using these tools today for really important business problems here. So that's one of the key objectives coming forward here. How do you know when you're using the secure employee chatbot? Usually you have to log in through your employees. On the ChatGPT side, it'll say your company's name. You'll see ours down the bottom here. We use ChatGPT Teams internally here. And Microsoft Copilot, you've got it. We also have that. You can click over there to get your name. So as we go into the employee use policy, you're going to see that your company allows you to put confidential information in the secure company employee chatbot, but you are not allowed and you're forbidden to put the confidential information in your non-secure one here. And ask for questions. There's usually always questions on that, but we keep going forward from that. We show them that even when you go to Copilot, Microsoft, and 99% of people in Microsoft will ask you for your work or your personal one. This training, we usually ahead of time make sure everyone's got access to ChatGPT or Teams. 99% of people do. Make sure they can log in and log out and actually go find it. Sometimes it's just linked. They haven't bookmarked it, so we ask them to do that. Remind them of the key takeaways. Then we go to employee use policy. We work with the company or CIO or security, make sure they have one. A lot of people don't. They're developing them. We kind of go through and practice for that, tell them where to find it here. And then we typically, this is one we've hidden the company name, work to find a simple graph that talks about tools and data. So this particular company has public AI tools. Those are on the right column. They only have a set of approved tools internally, Salesforce, Einstein, and Agentforce, and Einstein Copilot, and ChatGPT Teams. And in that, you're allowed to put your non-sensitive data as well as level 1 sensitive data, which they define as financial data, everything except for level 2, which is over on the left. And level 2 is PII information about companies, PHI, personal health information, credit card numbers here. So for this particular company, this was kind of the grid that they have. So what we find again and again is the company, employees want to do the right thing. And we really want to encourage them is that in this middle lane here, Alden, drive hard. Spend 40 hours this week with confidential data here. If executive can come over and say that here, because that's where you're going to really start seeing the real benefit at your company here. We walk through security. We just make sure. A lot of questions we get. I'm kind of curious. Here, it's stealing all my data at all times. It's going to use whatever I put in there into the training, Bob. And then we kind of walk through that, depending on where they are, particularly if they're using a hosted service now. What are you doing about your hosted Salesforce? Do you trust that vendor here? What's their data retention here? So we work pretty hard to get this objection out of the room. And if they aren't bringing it up, we bring it up here because it's absolutely in the room. And the skeptics or the naysayers are talking a lot about this here. It's really important in my experience to get this out, have the fact-based conversation and have the executives come up over that so you can start. Because the goal is to light up, in my view, the goal is to light up the 20-30% of GenAI enthusiasts in the room. We just don't know who they are right now. And we want to get them from that 0 to 1 in excitement and really using this. Go through takeaways again. And then we walk through the basics. I go through this pretty quickly here. A lot of audience mix here. Everyone's got vertigo. No one can keep up. Everybody hates it. You want it to stop. We want it to stop. It's not going to stop. I believe you got to not ostrich. It's time to adapt. It's the age of adaptation and not complaining, because for a whole bunch of reasons that we can get into, this is not going to stop. Also, usually here characterize that we're talking today about using secure chatbots at work. We're not going to be getting into topics of AI going to kill us all, what's going to happen to all our kids, all the income inequality people think is going to happen here, China versus US, education system, all that stuff's off the discussion map. And bring it up, we'll just parking lot it. But it's really about how you yourself can learn these tools to get more productive. Absolutely, it's confusing. This is a subway map of New York City. For the first time you get there, you're like, whoa, I'm not going down that hole. And then you get someone to walk you through it or show you how to do it, and you're able to do it. And that's what we're trying to get done today. Talk to machines, we walked through that. A little bit on horizontal stuff here. Talk a little bit, a lot of them now have heard multiple tools. And we talked today, we're really doing with a kind of text to text, text to image generation, but there's a lot amazing out there, text to video and whatnot. We're not doing with those today. We used to not do this. Now I do it all the time, is make sure, particularly if executives in the room, that we understand the difference between deterministic and probabilistic software, and that GenAI is probabilistic. Output can vary. It's very good unstructured data, and it's good for some problems, not all. We don't recommend that you don't use probabilistic software doing your accounting program here. And deterministic software is 100% explainable. Excel 2 + 2 = 4, and is what we're all comfortable with. So these are two different tools, and lots of frustration on why the probabilistic tool is not acting like a deterministic tool. It's not. They're different tools here, and you shouldn't use them for different ones here. So this is at least one way we start trying to set the framework for the objections that are going to come later on in the meetings. Comments on that, or questions, or critiques, or improvements, or disagreements?
Paul, could I just say one thing that we emphasize a lot when we're doing this, is that there's there are very obvious use cases around customer service, software creation, marketing, image creation, summarization, contract review. So we try to get and a bunch of very specific things on the table that people can relate to.
And ideally, if we can get you, and usually it didn't happen last year, now it happens. Usually in the audience, there's 1 or 2 people already enthusiastic. So they'll start sharing their case studies that are company specific in the company language, and typically are kind of well respected here. We walk through how it's built. They suck all this data out. We had a basic model that you can ask how many people kill for $1, we give you an answer, and then there's guardrails put around that, and then you access it by a browser or an API, which are pipes. And we also remind everyone on the basics. OpenAI is the name of the company. ChatGPT is the name of the product. It's a confusing name. Prompt or prompt engineering at a simplistic level just means what goes in the box. So if you're one of the 5.8 billion people in the world that use Google, because you can write something in the Google box, then you can write something in the ChatGPT or Copilot box here. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a data scientist. You don't have to have 30 hours of work to actually put something in the box. If you can express yourself, express your need, that's the barrier to that. We walk through kind of autocomplete, some of the basics here, and a lot of people know here. We don't get into reasoning models. We don't get into GPT or GEMs. We don't get into agents, at least we find it just too confusing, because the goal is really get them to use the basic use cases that week. We talk about prompting. Prompting matters. Lots of different ways you can prompt. Here's a simplistic way, kind of role, task, and output. But increasingly, I find myself and others just start and ask the robots, ask the software to actually start doing it. So I'll do a simple example here. And lately, I know you guys have been doing lately, I've been really using the dictation, Alden. This is really helpful. So create a prompt and analyzes a company website for SEO, search engine optimization effectiveness, and give me 5 good results. Start by asking the URL of the website. So instead of typing, puts it in there. Now look what I'm doing. I'm asking it to create the URL. And notice it didn't do it. It said, yeah. Oh, it did understand I was doing search engine optimization here. So here's this long prompt. So you don't have to go learn how to do this prompt. You can just ask the robots, ask the software, ask ChatGPT to come up with the prompt. And it would like me to run, yes, run it on this site. Oh, I share the URL. That's not working. And one of the things I'm looking for, anyway, it gives you the assessment here. Then I like to show people now, what do you do with this? You can now, copy this, put it in Word. If you can share, you can download something here. So people want to get value out of this. If we go back to this, and I won't go through all this here. Then we start going through simple demos. How to write how to write a customer letter in a different language here. And I'll try to get someone to list it and we'll go back to them, brainstorm a couple different ideas on that, create research, who's a leading car companies in the United States, show it comes into a table, add a row to the table, and then show them how to cut and paste that table into Excel. That's usually good. Explainer, find some complicated role or term in their industry, have them explain it different ways, ask analogy here. And I'm just talking through it now in terms of time, but usually I'm actually asking someone to come back and we're actually doing it. And ideally what I'm looking for is to get people to start sharing, like Rosemary did, their prompts. So in my mind, a really good analogy is we've got people sitting around the kitchen table and everyone's cutting the onions and everyone's slicing the cucumbers. It's not just watching. So it's more of a do and not just a watch or show. Analyze legal contracts and then create an image here. So that's it. And for our 101, I've got a few more things here, but let's go to other comments. People have Rosemary, do you have other tips that you've seen that worked well?
Rachel Baier or Rachel.
That wasn't me.
No, that was my daughter calling her. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, so here's what I found in training. I made some notes. So you just can't change people's habits with just a few training sessions. I just find that, like Lucinda's example of doing mini learning labs in her company is really the only other thing next to training that I think really works, right? You can also do one-on-one training, but you just can't do 6 sessions of AI training and expect people to change their behavior with that, because they always revert to old behaviors. And I've also found that the tools aren't as good as they need to be. And it's like this massive roadblock as soon as people are trying to do things in Copilot, like PowerPoint, and it doesn't do what they expect it to do. And then they just stop.
So Rosemary, I used to always look at that whole group of 60 or 80 people and try to get everyone 10 yards down the field was my mental thing here. I no longer look at that. The people in the back, like yourself, I can't change. I don't even want to talk to them. What I'm really looking for is that 20% of people whose eyes are just lighting up, who I know they're going to keep doing this here. And then I want to hone all my energy there because those are the only people I know that will carry that momentum in the company after I leave here. So I've given up on trying to give in stuff. And when people get really skeptical of me, I just say, stop using it. And I just want to go to the next person. That's probably not a good trainer mentality here, but
No, I totally understand that, because in training sessions, even when I know the people for many years, people are just silent. They rarely ask questions.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda and Bob.
Yeah. So I do feel like Rosemary had a great point about that having people learn from each other. We have hands-on sessions. I actually had a hands-on session where I made mistakes all over the place, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a disaster. But people were okay with it, and I do feel like yeah, you need to get people to actually do things and work. And I totally agree with you, Paul. Use the people, those 15% that are the users, that are the enthusiasts, to just keep getting them to come in and give content. So it's not just me talking about stuff, it's really other people. We're gonna have somebody do a cursor demo And then we're also going to have somebody do how she uses generative AI for her home improvement projects. So we use personal examples as well as business examples, super detailed tech examples, as well as like, okay, how do you get something to summarize a conversation in Gmail? So I'm just throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall, but I am just keep doing it.
Well, I actually think I'm learning that, and I'll go to Bob the next. Is I think that there is a specific strategy on this. I was on it doesn't matter. I was at some panel at MIT with a guy from windsurf, and I was asking him, in windsurf, all they focus on is peer influence. They want to get one coder
I think so.
doing it that influences then the next one. So this peer influence is the driving thing to me is very different than running at a company and trying to get, 30 engineers to start using a new thing here. So I thought that was similar. And I'm
Can you
gonna
give more details on how they do that?
they look on the name of the person, they look how much time he's using it here, and
Yeah.
then they try to figure out, and I think they also ask when you log in if you've been referred. So they start kind of connecting back here. And it sounds like they've got a lot of techniques, but he says they spend more time on that than anything else. And it's most effective way to go from 1 to 6 or 8, who then internally are coming up and arguing for that larger deal. Go ahead, Bob, and then Mark.
Yeah, so a couple things we do, and I'm dealing more on Marcom and communications and marketing side. So is gamification, is trying to get them competing against each other or showing each other what they're doing. So things like, here's the fun prompt Friday. So everybody puts in the prompt and then shares it with everybody else, what their responses were, right? And it all is different. Not that they care what the response is, but you're getting activity and you're getting everybody involved.
Love that.
And they're not scared of the prompt at that point. Then there's, obviously, like Lucinda was saying, office hours when they can come in and here's my problem, and you sit down and solve it with them. So it's it gets you the one-on-one activity. And then finally was like you were saying, finding the hand raisers to be the AI council. So trying to get them to have a pseudo leadership and responsibility behind it. So those are 3 things we do.
That's great. Yeah, go ahead, Mark. And then,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying. Rosemary earlier in the chat mentioned like, hey, AI is a bullet train and it left the station. And I use a very similar quote with people. I said, look, the train's here, it's leaving. And I say to people, if you want to be relevant and you want to have a great job in the future, you need to know this. No ifs, ands, or buts. And you've got to find a way to make it work for you. And I look for influencers within the company. And I also, when we do demos, oftentimes I'll have somebody else drive. And I think it makes it more real when somebody else drives.
That's great. Thanks, Mark. Go ahead, Alden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had mentioned a couple of months ago about like making heroes of the AI use cases. Like, so inside your company, if somebody has a use case, you make a hero of them, and then others typically will follow suit. I just saw a post by Jeffrey Busgang where he talks about having an AI employee of the month. So who was the one that had the best AI use case?
It's a great suggestion.
Even further, and said, make the AI usage part of your performance review. So when somebody is being reviewed, just go into what was his AI usage, how did he make himself more efficient with the. So I know that there is no one clear answer on this, but there is a carrot and stick approach to this. Like if somebody is hesitant, like you can see what Microsoft is doing, where they will force things down people's throat if needed.
What's interesting, Alden, I think implicit in both yours is a CEO leadership who's leaning into this, who's supporting it, and it's not sending the vibes. This is a cute little tool for kids. We do real work here at this insurance companies here. If you want to play over in the corner, go ahead. But I'm setting the signals that we do real work. We don't play around on little school cheat tools. Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
I have a question. Question for the experts on prompting. There's 2 schools of thought on it. One is to give it so much context and to be so thorough. And I've done some of that, and I've seen what others have done. And then there's a school of thought that keeps it at, as you point out, Paul, just those 3 bullet points. I tend to use personas, 3 personas brought together because the outputs are maximized with 3. But at what point does all of this context, when do you know it's too much? I have found these long prompts are so much less effective. But so where is that point? And I guess I don't have the patience to actually do the science behind it to find out. Does anyone else have any context for that?
We have a recent article on that, Lucinda.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I mean, I'm more of a long prompt person because I do believe like 3 examples are worth 1,000 words. If you can give 3 examples of outputs that you want, I organize my prompts. You can put prompts into JSON or code or something if you feel like you want to be very structured about it. And some of the one of the projects that I worked on, I had like, 2-page prompt because that's what it takes to be able to get across what the subject matter expert wants. So I do think that if you have like a messy prompt that's all over the place and very long, that's not necessarily helpful. But if you have, like role, persona, objective, 3 examples, blah, 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 if you have some distinct parts that are orderly, I think you can actually you can get some good outputs on highly, complex things.
And Sharon, what's long to you? Is it a paragraph or 25 pages?
It's like,
Um, I would say it's about, I've seen half a page single spaced. And then I've tried on some complex, I've tried to give, here's all the criteria for what makes the right answer right. And after a while, it stops functioning and starts giving me, it ignores them.
so, I mean, I think if you tell it what to do, that actually can be confusing to the LLM. But if you give examples of outputs that you want, then I feel like that's a more those words are have more impact.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um,
Like three
the other
examples.
thing that has worked is there's data on this too, research on it, is having 3 personas in your prompt tends to get a better outcome.
I think it's pretty hard right now. Um, and my default is Paul and Rosemary's default, which is ask the robots about your prompt. I think examples, few shot examples have been shown to help. But the thing is, they're changing the internals of the models so quickly, and particularly the reasoning models. There's just conflicting research that sometimes it's better to give them much shorter uh, context. And in fact, we had an article about this today that overlong context degrades performance, but that's kind of a different thing. And I think it also matters what you're asking. If there is something that you're asking that's pretty specific and you can give it a couple of examples, my experience is it will do much better, though that's anecdotal. It's my experience. Whereas if you're asking a general question like, tell me the best kind of new mattress to get, there's plenty of evidence that that's the right prompt.
Yeah, it's
But
in
it's hard to tell
marketing.
because there isn't much research on it and we don't get much feedback. The companies are pretty opaque about it.
Yeah. I guess in probably Rosemary can speak to this, but in the marketing world, there's rarely 3 answers or 4 examples or 5 examples. There's numbers of right examples. And so it is a bit challenging, but I'm going to give that a shot, Lucinda, is to introduce that 10 examples
Well,
and see if that works better.
Yeah.
and also Sharon, ask AI your exact question here. See
Yeah,
what they would say about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
great
Great.
point.
Well, we've got 7 minutes here. Open mic. Anybody want to share things they found? Fascinating use cases. Raymond, you got a new code you tried this week? One thing I've been doing a lot more is infographics. I've been finding OpenAI is pretty good on that. So I've been saying that. One of the things and Rosemary, if you've done that, but I want to get a GPT or find a way to say, here's the text I want from infographic, but I want the branding to be similar to this image or a brand. Have you tried blending an image of the company with text and then having an infographic that uses the same colors?
Well, I've only done that with Gemini in deep research. You can get it to create an infographic. You can get it to change colors, but it doesn't do a really good job of that. And I've had it one time it came out in green and I said I wanted it in blue and it still gave it to me in green. So I think we're still in early days for that. But here's one topic. Who's been trying VO3?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
and what'd you think, Rosemary, for people who haven't decided?
I thought it was awesome.
And share tell people what it is if some folks don't know what it is.
Okay. So it's Google's video tool. It's a paid tool, but right now you can get I think, do you get 4 or 3 a day that you can try? And so what you can just test is take an image, take a cool image you have and upload it and ask it to animate it. And it's pretty darn awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. Go
Very
ahead. Let's
impressive.
go, Richard. Let's go, Richard first, and then we'll go to others.
Oh, just like a completely silly thing. Okay. One evening, I love fantasy. So whoever likes fantasy, here's an offer. I was bored and I wanted I want a fantasy book that will have this interesting mentorship and time travel twist. And I just put as vague prompt as possible. And in about half an hour, I got a book, 190 pages, 60,000 words, fantasy book that actually, well, it didn't follow what I asked. And because I was vague, I didn't put anything there, but it created lots of the main story, the sub stories, the characters. And okay, I was, I, well, I'm biased. So I love the book. And it was really just like a one boring evening. And yeah, if somebody's interested, I can send it to them and
Richard, did it carry
compare
the
with.
stories? Did it carry the storyline the whole way through and resolve the conflict by character? I mean, did it actually complete the whole?
And it started with analyzing what am I going to do? These are the characters. This character. So really following a writing, process of a first creating a skeleton, the main arc, the sub arcs, main characters, the supplemental characters, and when it was writing the chapters. After each chapter, it actually tried to go into analysis, but after a couple of chapters, well, no, go ahead, well, don't even ask me. And so it finished the book. Well, I ran it twice and ran it on ChatGPT and on Claude. And ChatGPT, after maybe half the book, the chapter started getting glitchy to the point, well, there were no complete sentences. Sometimes there was a paragraph talking about planning the end of the chapter rather than having the chapter. So that was an interesting negative experience, but I'm still excited about a positive one. End of sharing.
Thanks for sharing, Richard. Last two, go ahead, Bob, and then finish with Tim.
Oh, unfortunately, mine are really big topics, but I've been trying to figure out, and maybe somebody else here has figured out, agent costing. And prediction and determination of the cost of an agent in order to allow it to get out into the public. So because it's not deterministic, I don't know how to actually put together an agent-based application and sell it. So wondering if somebody else has figured that out.
Did you ask the robots?
Yeah, and they all said, we don't know. Or they come back with other things. But the other thing was, what's your reaction to OpenAI agent? So I'm sure somebody has lots of that. So maybe next time, maybe next week.
Yeah.
So, Bob, the big thing on that is what is the value that the agent is driving, right? And if the value is high, then ideally the cost should not be much of an issue. So if the value is $8 and the cost is 6 cents,
so
then
you're preaching a subscription model that somebody could run up costs and have to pay for it, right? So as opposed to a flat fee model, or if your agent uses lots of different APIs and they're all different prices, the value can be the margin can be variable. That's
Correct.
the issue. So
Yeah.
you can't. It's how do I figure out what my profit is? How do I figure out what my costs are? How do I figure out what to charge people? Because everything varies.
To that is that it's very difficult to do so. But
yeah, and I think until that's actually solved, I don't think the agent ecosystem is going to overtake the app store ecosystem. So
Great. Let's finish up here. Let's pick topic.
Sorry.
I just want to hold it.
Yeah, we'll do that another day. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Go ahead, Tim. Finish up here and then we'll end.
So I have a question. The Nat uses Copilot, and I've been trying to help some folks create a simple agent to do some analysis across some documents. Very standard kind of thing. I don't know if anybody knows, it's a pretty specific question, but there's a limit on the SharePoint agent of 20 items. Now it says those items can be folders, but it's not doing recursive traversing. So basically you're limited to 20 files, which is kind of a non-starter. I tried it again in Copilot Studio, didn't work very well either. So I don't know if anybody has had experience enough to know if there's a workaround to these file limitations in Microsoft Copilot. Yeah. Can't say I'm a big fan of Copilot the more I use it. I mean, the idea that there's a 20 file limit in SharePoint is so mind-blowing to me. That doesn't make any sense.
Tim, we just had another company today we're talking with, and they're 100% Copilot in the last 3 months. They're just trying to get over it, and they're going to wait till January. And
yeah, but to Rosemary's comment, the CFO invests a lot of money, and they're not going to give up easy.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Great conversation as usual. Let's keep the learning going.